going on, everybody? Welcome in to another edition of Huskers Live, episode 199. We are almost to 200 episodes. Let me turn this light on so I make things a little easier. All right, cool. And I'm dealing with some issues, so my eyes are really watery right now, so I apologize in advance for that. So if it looks like I'm crying, I'm not, I promise. But a lot to talk about today. So first off, leave your thoughts on the Dana Holgorsen news. I'm trying to get some feedback on just the overall consensus of how Husker fans are feeling. I'm going to give my take, of course, and I got a pretty good breakdown of what we can kind of, well, first off, what Dana Holgorsen kind of is as an offensive coach and his mindsets and what he does schematically to kind of help. And I got some film to go along with that from 2022 and Houston. And so with that, and then also, additionally to that, just how those offenses performed compared to, where Nebraska likes to throw the ball, how, we target the middle of the field. And a lot of the areas that Holgorsen targets is a lot of the same areas that Satterfield targets, but to a higher, percentage. And I'm going to kind of give some in-depth details of why I think that's the case. Now, of course, Holgorsen's not coming in to completely, be the OC, but he's coming in to have a say in this offense. And of course, the writing's been on the wall. Rule's not happy currently with the way the offense is running to the point where he took the play sheet in the last game. So this is kind of, almost maybe just a little warning to Satterfield that hey, we are in the business of winning and we need to win now. And this is not going to be tolerated. The lack of results, the lack of progress, the lack of success is not going to be tolerated. And I think, he understands that this is the type of fan base where he needs to hold his staff accountable or, we're going to rightfully kind of lose our minds here watching the same song and dance week after week. And even when Satterfield seems self-aware to the point where he admits, this is the issue. In my opinion, I need to do a better job of this, but then doesn't come out and fix those things and doesn't implement the things he says he needs to implement. It doesn't make a lot of sense as it sits currently. So, but yeah, so hopefully I can give some insight into that and make you feel a little bit better about it. But yeah, like I said, drop your comments in here on that. And first things first, if you're just popping in here, of course, my name is Justin Adams. I am a host here at Nebraska Football, the voice of college football. You can find me over at the X on the_H Town Husker over there as well. And if y'all don't mind dropping a like on the stream, it really, really helps me out. And I'd greatly appreciate that. So thank y'all. And actually, I got to go into my settings here and turn something on just real quick. But let me go ahead and dive into some of what Holgorsen's systems kind of what he tries to run. And one of the big overarching themes that you'll see in a Dana Holgorsen offense is he's really trying to stretch the field out wide so he can kind of set up. And they talk about, him being this air raid style of coach, but that's the thing. He's not trying to come in and completely revamp the offense. And for people to say he's just an air raid coach, that doesn't really give credit to his kind of the way he's kind of developed and adjusted his system over time. So, with him, it's like the air raid, but he's kind of molded it along the way to fit certain details. So, he started his career, with Mike Leach, who was kind of the inventor, pioneer, if you will, of the air raid. So, what that did was, the quick short passing game was almost kind of the run game. That's how they wore down defenses with the air raid, was just kind of check downs and doing that type of deal. You kind of keep everybody off balance, and you run basically throws that kind of operate as runs to kind of have your run game. And so that's essentially the air raid. But over time, Holgorsen has gotten a lot more in depth with adding, traditional runs, run pass options, and multiple formations, because his offense for a while there was getting pretty predictable. So it has made adjustments over time. But you'll see kind of when I break down the film, he uses a lot of separation and wide splits, kind of horizontally to kind of spread the defense to cover more ground. When you're a defender, you don't want to be covering grass, right? And this is designed to try to make them cover grass because they're going to be in a situation where they're going to have to hammer down a zone that's, wider now. And so that also, will help the quarterback in a way because the spacing is going to help him be able to operate and make better throws and almost simplify the offense in a way because it simplifies the reads for him. When you're attacking certain coverages and you're using certain routes to attack certain coverages because those exploits in that defense, for instance, cover 2, deep middle of the field, cover 3, you got those kind of outside areas in the void. So like you're attacking those different, targets of the defensive scheme based on how they're aligned, and that makes the quarterback's job much easier. So the one balance, that would have to be found is Satterfield's very much of a huddling type of guy. He believes huddling is like the foundation of football. And a lot of what Holgorsen does goes on tempo. And, so there's going to have to be a balance of kind of finding that tempo, because it's one of those where they want to get personnel advantages. So they try to prevent them from being able to make certain switches. So that's something that could be added in there in certain situations, and stuff like that. So then, the balanced passing attack as well, because, he'll run the ball when needed, even though it is an explosive style of offense where you're trying to set up, the deeper pass and stuff like that. But he has adapted over time to the point where if they're playing drop back coverage, and used to be one of his problems is they would drop back into coverage and he would still challenge him and say, our offense is better than your defense. And now he's learned to kind of take that and be able to get a run up the middle or be able to use that. So, so it's a lot more balanced. So, and one of the, a couple of the issues that Nebraska's had in terms of their offense this year, rhythm, one of the biggest things is offensive rhythm, explosive plays, consistent explosive plays. And we want to run this offense. We have track guys, right? We wanted to run this offense with spacing. We wanted to run this offense with our speed, our playmakers, and kind of generate this high efficiency offense where we're just kind of getting our playmakers in space. And if they can find a way to kind of implement the styles of his offense that get his teams into rhythm and get them in explosive plays, it's something that this offense can evolve with. And when I brought up the Glenn Thomas interview when he first came on, we was talking about Matt Rule offenses are a collaborative effort. Dana Holgorsen's probably going to have a big say in this, but again, as was stated, his role will expand a little more as time goes on. But so yeah, I think the best way to kind of merge those styles is just, the passing concepts of the spread offense with the physicality at the line of scrimmage that we desire. But this is a way to kind of get a more unpredictable, I guess, attack. And that way, what Satterfield is doing is he's being basically out-coached and out-schemed every week, because over the course of this season, Nebraska's offense has seemingly regressed, and it's because he's just repeating a lot of the same concepts. He's not coaching, he's not evolving, he's not adapting. I talked about it when I was talking about USC on a show last night, when I talked about Miller Moss and how Lincoln Riley is not coaching him out of his mistakes, right? And that's kind of what we want to see from our coaching QB connection is coaching mistakes out of them, right? And it's hard to coach mistakes out of a quarterback when they're put in a situation where they cannot operate as a quarterback. Matt Rule said, of course, earlier this offseason, you get better at football by playing football. But it's hard to go out there and just play football and learn when you're just, you have route concepts that aren't getting open, or, the routes are too deep and you're running for your life. You're not learning much from that film. And so they got to get better at at least simplifying some of the concepts for him so that way we can start seeing him make some of these throws, make some of these timing rhythms, get some of these drives together to have a little bit more of an idea on film of what he is as a quarterback when he's, standing in the pocket confidently. Because right now, like Lynn Thomas said too, calm feet equal calm mind. Right now, he's not, his feet aren't calm, and rightfully so. I mean, he's taken a lot of punishment this season. So, and with the different run concepts, like there needs to be way more variance with the run concepts. Satterfield's really traditional with his run game, right? And it's a very physical style of run game. But with Holgorsen, he runs a little bit more of a so what I'm looking for, I wouldn't say spread out kind of run game again, just because he's still in those wide sets from time to time and not always in those big heavy sets that 12 personnel, that 13 personnel that Satterfield likes to get into. And so pulling some of those guys out of the box and really letting some of our guys like Ramir and Emmett operate in space by having a little bit more, freedom in the box and taking some of those defenders out. And also, what Ohio State does well, talking about, going to misdirections and things like that. What Ohio State did very well, in the early part of the season, or just so far this season, is, and they didn't do it a ton against Nebraska, but what I saw in their film against Iowa was they would run guys, motion guys across and kind of just run them away. They would take a good defender that they wanted to get out if they were in man coverage, and they would, bring a motion guy across the formation and snap the ball while his back's to the play, while he's getting set and kind of getting out on that opposite side. They're going to run the ball the opposite direction. There's little misdirection things that can be done like that aren't happening. But that'll also help with, kind of the jet motions and the jet sweeps as well, because you have, you don't have that threat right now of the spaced out field. People are being able to stack the box right now. And so spreading that field out and then kind of getting them back in the box and just kind of keeping them kind of on their heels and backed up, because what we're seeing a lot right now on these screens is they're being blown up immediately. Like I'm talking, the defenses are seeing this on film because they are picking up and they are blowing up and getting downhill quicker than our blockers can engage in the blocks, right? And so there's something there that's being seen on film that they see on the field that clicks. We got to get downhill as a screen coming. So mixing those variations up to just spreading them out. I think it's the biggest thing is right now defenses are doing what they want, and we're not taking them out of it. We can't take them out of that right now. We're not doing what we need to do in terms of taking advantage of certain coverages. And then you can still add elements of that short passing game as an extension of the run, because that's another thing we've talked about. Nebraska not being able to use the short to intermediate passing game. It's just relying on deep explosive plays and hoping you break some runs and some plays that aren't going to go nowhere to the perimeter, and occasionally some turnovers. So getting a implementation of slants, quick out routes, like Illinois did to us in our game against them. They really went to those out routes, those hitches, those curls and stuff like that. And that's what a lot of teams do. They take what the defense gives you. And then just, I think this also allows, them to expand just kind of their myriad of formations. And that also will be something that they can use situationally against certain teams, and also gives a bunch of different looks on film, when you have to then cover for the RPO, when you have to then cover for, even the run pass action, which is a RPO, run pass option and a run pass action are two kind of different things. But, lining up in formations that look passing and then being able to run the ball out of those, that's something that we haven't done very well. And then I think it'll open the tight ends up as well. I do. I see that a lot in his offenses, but I think that'll open up the tight ends as well. Get them, because right now our tight ends aren't being utilized to their best. We still have Fedoni being used horizontally instead of vertically. And Fodoni's been one of our better players this season, even against Indiana. I think he had the highest grade. And so he's doing a lot of things well, but he's just got to be put in better situation to succeed. Because again, his route was wide open on that interception, that the pick six that Dillarello threw right over him on the seam. If we would have looked a little bit beyond him and done a high-low read, he would have saw Fodoni open down the seam. And I think Holgorsen understands at this point, like, his role, right? He's coming in to be a consultant. He's here to help adapt this offense. And so I think those are a lot of things that can come out of this, a more so of a hybrid offense. And I want to show you just really quickly here a drive from his game. Let's see. This is 2022 film. Find it here. And I'll pull this up for you too. And in a second, also what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up, like I said, the success rates for his teams targeting, certain parts of the field, things like that. So, but here's some of his 2018 film, or 2022, sorry, 2018. I don't think where is it at? Okay, here we go. Let's just do this. Oh, okay. All right. So I'm just going to let this run through a little bit. Okay, let's fast forward it just a little bit. Boop, boop. All right, for some reason it's not wanting to play now. Yeah, it's a buffering. Sorry, guys. Try to pull this back up. Of course, this would happen. All right, let me see if I can load. I'm going to pull up the numbers while I wait. It loaded up right when I clicked away. Go figure. I'm going to pull up the numbers real quick while I'm waiting on this to load. That's weird because that never happens, but I already had it preloaded. But let's just dive into some of these numbers here. Let me see where I'm at. Okay, so I want to compare, first off, the U of H here, let's start with Nebraska. We'll start with Nebraska's passing kind of concepts and directions, right? And so what you'll notice, of course, here is you see the percentage of dropbacks under pressure, which is kind of wild. 32%, 32.5% of the time under pressure, blitzed 42.1% of the time, right? And you see the difference in these grades, okay? So another thing that's good about keeping the defense on their heels is it keeps them from being able to kind of pin their ears back and be able to blitz. And that's what's been happening right now, is we're not taking them out of that. So coming down here to the way we target the field, right? You see we got the deep center here, 4.4% of the time, 8 completions, 44. So pretty good pass grade there. We got 1 interception. Deep left. So pay attention to the parts of the field that we target right here. So we got short center, 18.5% of the time. Okay. Intermediate center, 16.4% of the time, right? And then kind of it's spread out after that. Behind the line of scrimmage, 21.8% of the time. Okay, so I think there's a stat here that y'all are going to like. And if y'all can't see that, I'll zoom in just a little bit for y'all. Okay, so this is kind of Nebraska's spread of the offense. Now let's go ahead and go over to the Houston 2022 passing direction. Let's share this tab instead. So coming over here, we'll drop back here and let me see here. All right, cool. So, all right, let's do, so 73.1% of the time kept clean, 26.9% under pressure, blitzed 36.8. Okay, but look at the numbers when blitzed, right? 91.2, one of their higher pass grades, kept clean, 92.9. Now you see a high success rate off of play action right here, much higher than Nebraska's. No play action. So you see how everything's kind of set up pretty well. But then you come down here, and this is the biggest thing. So a lot of the areas that Nebraska targets on the field are very similar to what Holgorsen's offenses have targeted. So you look here, and we talked about, first off, behind the line of scrimmage, and you see center 13.3%, right? Down from, what was it, 21% under Satterfield. So right there, you eliminate a huge percentage of those plays. Now, coming up here, short center, 18.5%. That was another heavily targeted area of the field for Nebraska. Very poor grade, right? They don't target it with success. Now you come here, short center, 90.6. That's one of their better ones. Intermediate center, 90.7, 14.3%. Again, very similar to the percentages that Nebraska had. And they just do it at a much higher success rate. And if you look at all the numbers over here, the adjusted percentages and stuff like that, they're at a much higher, number. And so when looking at that, but then also looking at the rush direction. So like I was talking about before, when it comes to running the ball with these teams, look at middle right, 57 attempts, right? So kind of spread the defense out wide with your passing offense and attack the middle with your run game. You come here, and you have middle left, right? So 57, 48, and then you kind of have your right ends. They'll run the outside zones on occasions, but you have your right tackle, right guard. So like they really mainly love to target these areas at a high success rate. And the reason why they have a high success rate at these areas, 7.4 yards per attempt, 7 yards per attempt, is because they do a good job of spreading the field out horizontally and bringing everything from that. So I'm going to just jump into some of y'all's comments here, get a little behind. So let's go into it. I don't get the air raid direction with our run game. Here to listen, enjoy most of the day. Anything I would have to say right now wouldn't help the conversation. Appreciate you being here, Christian. Matt Rule said everyone needs feel, and I'm feeling. I was like, yeah, I feel you, bro. A cold plate of craft cheese dinner would be a better OC and play caller and sad. I'm curious how why Rule chose Holgorsen. Not disappointed at all. Holgorsen was somebody that was rumored about coming last season. So I think it was one of those things where he had already kind of built that connection and had those conversations with Holgorsen. He is available. And that probably made it a lot easier. I don't know, we're paying an OC $1.2 million for the garbage he is calling, plus having to bring someone in to wipe his butt. Yeah, we paid him that and hoping that he wouldn't call such crap. But that, again, along with Jeff Sims, the other worst decision Matt Rule has made is Marcus Satterfield for sure. Dana may be the answer. I mean, anything at this point helps, let's be honest. Regardless of any air raid implications that do or do not exist, Holgorsen knows how to attack favorable matchups and has to be an improvement over the dartboard. Yeah, 100%. And that was kind of one of the things I want to show you in Nebraska's film is not taking advantage of those certain coverages. Riley will greatly benefit from having Holgorsen's offense. Agreed, 100%. Let's see. I don't think Nebraska fans are against having a passing tech-led offense. We're just against it now because it's not working. If Danny can get it to work, I don't mean to pass first teams. And to be honest, we're not a pass or a run first team based on our identity, if that makes sense, because it seems at random. I think that's the problem right now. Everything seems random because there's no identity of the offense. So we don't know coming out there what we're going to get. Is this going to be a drive where we're going to come out and try to establish a run, or is this going to be a drive where we come out, throw the ball 3 times, try to throw it down the field and get nowhere, right? And I think that's part of the problem is like we don't know what this team is first. We would hope that they would be a kind of run first team that establishes a run in Big Ten football. But I just don't think there is enough of identity to even be able to call that. So, what Dana is coming in to do is, like I said, not implement his offense, but give guidance. And he's been around this game a long, long time, especially offensively with his offenses. They've been tremendous. And you can see a lot of numbers floating around there that people looked up about him, but they've been excellent. And so, but today I want to kind of focus on why that's been the case and what I think he can help with. Holgorsen's a better OC than a head coach. He's basically done well as OC, 100%. Turning. Yeah. All right, you two relax. Satterfield sold his house in Lincoln. Did he? Is that for real? I'm not sure what to believe these days, but we need Holgorsen to bring the pirate mentality. Yep. Rest in peace, Mike Leach. RIP. And air raid, pull the trigger philosophy might be exactly what Dylan needs to get him out of his head and just settle down. Exactly. Somebody talked earlier about him being a one-read quarterback. And I'm like, it's not that, or that he's not going through his progressions or he's regressed. It's not that he's a one-read quarterback. It's not that he's not going through his progressions or he's progressed. It's just, I'm a Texans fan. And CJ Stroud right now has the most pressures of any team our offensive line is putrid. It's worse in football. He's been hit more than any quarterback, more pressures than any quarterback. CJ Stroud is struggling right now, okay, because of his offense. His receivers are out, so he's not getting receivers that are getting separation. His offensive line isn't blocking. It makes the best of the best kind of second guess and not be able to play the quarterback position the way they should and process their reads and do certain things because you're constantly worried about, okay, I get pressured from my backside a lot. Okay, now I'm worried about that. So I'm like looking over my shoulder while I'm trying to go through my progression. It's things like that that people don't realize get into a quarterback's head, and especially an 18-year-old kid, right? He's learning on the fly about how to, develop to the college system and get used to shelled coverages, rolling cover 3 look shells into cover 2, that type of thing. Identifying pressure on key reads. And he's getting beat up in the process and has receivers that aren't getting separation, and the whole weight of the world is on his shoulders, right? And I think that's a lot of things that people don't factor in. I think that's why Matt Rule is protective of Dylan, is because honestly, we haven't seen him be able to sit back and play quarterback for a little while now. And so we're not getting the full experience because, if our wide receivers aren't getting separation, why isn't Satterfield trying to scheme up the offense and you look at what, Ohio State and Indiana did when I compare those two plays, they got open on us back-to-back week. Those were both design plays to attack that coverage, and they knew where our liabilities were on the defensive side of the ball, and they attacked it. Satterfield has not done that at all this season. He has not come out against a cover 3 and been like, I'm going to go throw to the void in this defense. I'm going to attack those outsides. I'm going to bust that up the seam. It's just, it doesn't make sense. Tilson Source, you absolutely, and that's also what I tell people all the time. But Patrick Mahomes, Patrick Mahomes doesn't. I get everybody loves Patrick Mahomes and all this other stuff, but if you look at how many wide open receivers he throws to, or when he throws to a guy, that guy, the field is spread out. He has space around him, right? That makes his life so much easier, and that's the difference right now. You got a guy like CJ Stroud who's fighting for his life with receivers that can't get separation, and also a battle line. And CJ Stroud's an excellent quarterback, but then you go over and you got Patrick Mahomes, who's actually struggling this year when he targets the ball deep downfield. But you got to understand he doesn't have a lot of weapons right now. So even with that, scheming those guys to be wide open, right? It's one of those things that a good offensive mind can do. Andy Reid is an offensive guru, as we all know. So they can make the quarterback's life a lot easier, and especially if they design the passing concepts to get them in space. I'm upset with that loss against UCLA, rightfully so, as we all should be. That's an inexcusable loss. I'm sorry, it's completely inexcusable. After that game, like that was one of those where it's like, I feel like, I think that was the first time where I thought to myself, the Indiana game was pretty embarrassing, but that was the first inkling I had of like this season being like, here we go again. Like, this is the same team, and stuck into my head for a second. But then I realized it's not at the end of the day, but it's still an inexcusable loss. That is a team that is not good. They have a coach who has been a position coach, not a coordinator, not a head coach. And we went out there and we got outcoached and out game planned and out schemed. And they were just able to dink and dunk their way down the field. They literally, what I'm talking about, taking what they did. And again, whenever we bring cover 3s, they targeted those voids. They targeted those voids in the space. And, they went against and tried to challenge what our defense was doing. Our defense tightened up there. But then once again, the offense makes no adjustments. And I know a lot of people talked about Harburg coming in there and talking about wanting to, talking about Harburg potentially having success. But the thing about it is you don't put in Harburg right now. And Harburg had some passing success, but that the defense was playing off, right? Defense was playing off because they knew touchdown was what they needed, or what we needed, right? So they're playing off just trying to not give up the big play. So, um, just got here. Did Satterfield get fired, demoted? No. We hired Dana Holgorsen to be an offensive consultant and try to figure some stuff out on this offense. So they just need get Dylan some easy throws, some short passes early on to get him in rhythm. Don't understand 3 to 4 yard passes or to get your QB in rhythm. Exactly. And I alluded to that after the Illinois game as a big concern of mine too, because I'd pointed to that drive where Illinois took 5.5 minutes to march down the field and methodically drive down the field. They picked up 5 first downs on one drive, right? And just methodically marched their way down the field. And then we come out and we throw 3 explosive passes and score a touchdown. And I said then, I'm like, I'm never going to, have flack about scoring a quick touchdown. But scoring a quick touchdown means there was some kind of lapse in the defense or broken play or something like that. Like a 3-play drive is not a drive that is going to be sustainably set up. Like, okay, we're going to go for 3-play drives, right? Like that's not something that's sustainable. And so some of these explosive plays, I think, contributed to a lot of this. And I think a lot of the early season success, again, we looked at, I talked about this probably after game 2. And I talked about how good Dylan was at recognizing man coverage on the outsides to be able to throw them up and get pass interference calls. That is something we've also had happen a lot with this team, those pass interference calls that help us keep the ball moving, and stuff like that. So I feel like this offense, maybe we got a little ahead of ourselves in total of what this offense can be. But I think almost in a way, it's a good thing to know and be able to point to the problem and be able to say, okay, I understand this, but like this isn't deep rooted offense, will never be an offense at Nebraska. It's more so we got the wrong guy at the play call sheet calling the plays. And I know people are upset about that, but it's a good thing to know the problem at least. Whereas the problem with the 1-score losses seems to be one we can't identify why that's the case. But a reporter mentioned it on one local YouTube channel. Got it. Leach is sorely missed, irreplaceable, one of a kind. That is for damn sure. Nebraska Cornhuskers football team lost against UCLA. Yeah, Gavin, I'm aware. I think we all are, actually. Mrs. Press conference, he always something fun to say, 100%. Yeah. All right, Gavin. I'm so confused right now. Is that a bot? I'm confused. I was about to celebrate. I know. No, but Rules just I said this a couple weeks back, 3 weeks ago. Rules just doesn't fire people midseason. Never has. And I brought that up 2 weeks ago. I said he's never fired anybody midseason. So Mike Leach terrorized defenses for decades, 100%. Took him a while to adjust to that air raid for sure. I need you to help give me hope. I'm still in the brink of sadness and despair. I feel stupid for thinking this team was good when they were 5-1. Again, the fact that we may have overestimated this offense early on, but the fact that, again, I just think there's something to be said when you coming out of Frost era, right? We're like, there's so many things on this list of things that are broken with this team, right? There were so many things on that list. And so now we have this team, right? And it feels like the 1-score losses, those type of things that invoke that emotion, that same kind of feeling. But like I said, at least this time, I feel like we can point to the problem. And we understand that this team has talent. This team has playmakers because we've seen them produce. We've seen some of these players produce already. And we've seen some of them produce last year. We know what they're capable of. It's just putting them in good situations. So you are one offensive coordinator away from that jump. Think about it that way. If Nebraska is an OC this season, you're probably winning 2 or 3 more games that we've played already. You're probably not beating Indiana, but the other games, very, very possible because the fact that the defense was able to keep us in a couple of those games is nothing short of a miracle. So, please no more Fedoni screens. I agree. I don't know why you're trying to have a guy who's had ACL knee surgeries to try to make him quick plant and get up the field constantly when you know it's going to be it's kind of slow for him to cut up the field. Get him going vertically, take advantage of his size, take advantage of his hands. Use that man because he's a good football player, all around good football player, and he plays his ass off every single snap that he goes 110 miles an hour. I respect the hell out of Fedoni. Satterfield not ready for the Big Ten or anywhere else. No. Maybe this is rule giving Holgorsen the chance to prove his schemes can be effective for a month before a coach has to go shopping for an OC. That was the other kind of conversation, was wondering if this is kind of a setup, writing on the wall to potentially be able to promote Holgorsen after the season ends. I'm not sure. I'm not sure on that. I think if anything, Holgorsen would stay on the staff at some point, but you got to think, because I don't know what kind of role he's going to be able, how much of a role he's going to have late this season. I think that will dictate that. If he has enough of a role or a say in this offense going forward, where you can point to it and be like, okay, he had that impact on this offense, then I think you can look to that. But if they don't give him enough of a role early on to be able to just say, we're just kind of getting him implemented into the offense and kind of showing him what we have these next 3 weeks, and then this is going to kind of be a transitional thing over the offense, over the offseason. That's the one thing. I'm curious to see how much of a role he has and how quickly it develops. If that makes sense. But very possible, because I with everything, these are always, in my opinion, no matter what, if you get put in a role like this, it's always kind of like a test or like an interview. You always got to look at it that way, because if you do a good job for what you're hired to do, you're going to remain on the staff in some facet. So if we get a bowl game, I shit my pants. We will win against USC. Let's see. USC's 4-5 on the season. Appreciate that, Gavin. Satterfield might be a good coach for a newly created soccer team in Cuba. Yeah. I'm trying to keep it nice on Satterfield out of respect for but it's hard. It's hard sometimes. It's just doofus. Out of respect for the outgoing OC, perhaps we should all shit our pants. The 21 punk salute. You are wild, dude. Boswell's team shows up 1 week, so shits the bed the next. Never know what you're going to get with this team. That's the tough part. And Colin Miller calling out the fan base, saying like, oh, they were, half asleep during the last drive. Like, honestly, did anybody feel at any point in that game, even on that last drive, like Nebraska was going to win that game or even tie it? Because I sure as hell didn't. I like that last drive. I was prepping up for my post game for part of it, because I was just like, I just feel, because it's happened so many times. And it's like, can you blame us for feeling that way? Can you blame us for constantly having this product and feeling that way after? That was kind of interesting. Satterfield would be a bad soccer coach. The team would keep passing the ball backwards and being near the goal. Yeah, own goals all day. USC benches, they're starting QB today. Yep, there was talks about that too, but so Joe, I want to call that encouraging. Yeah, the problem with USC, and just if I can dive into a little bit of USC here real quick for y'all, the problem with USC is they are kind of like Nebraska, similar to, this fly is irritating me. They're similar to Nebraska in the sense that they struggle mightily with execution issues on the offensive side of the ball, which is interesting for a Lincoln Riley coach team. Like Miller Moss, again, Miller Moss has not been coached out of his mistakes. Miller Moss is kind of almost like, in a way, not regressing, but he, to a certain extent, he just is not being he's not being developed as you would expect a Lincoln Riley quarterback to be developed, right? And so Lincoln Riley is being called out for this, right? But Lincoln Riley, I guess, sees the need to change his quarterback as maybe a reason to ignite, spark in the fan base and say, hey, this is, kind of what. But the problem with it is he's not adjusting either. So they came out against Washington, and Washington is an excellent pass defense and a very poor run defense, and he throws the ball 50 times, right? So very similar to what Satterfield's doing. He is not game planning towards the team that they're going up against. He is going out there and trying to run his offense and saying, my offense is better than your defense. And he's losing because of it, and they got a 4-5 record because of it. And so that it's that is going to be interesting because I don't think that is just a quarterback issue. I think there's something there where Lincoln Riley, I said this yesterday, I think somebody needs to step in and kind of from the top and tell Lincoln Riley that, like, hey, you need to learn to balance your system, right? Because now they have a defense to lean on, right? And USC's defense isn't the best in the world, of course, but they have a defense, right? And that defense has proven they can be physical. And you finally have an opportunity because Lincoln Riley's so used to just score, right? No defense, no defense. But you have a chance, an opportunity here to be able to kind of run the ball and get behind your defense, right? Sounds similar, doesn't it? But he won't get in that mindset of running the ball. He's not used to leaning on his defense, so he doesn't know how to coach himself away from that. And that's why this USC game gets very interesting because both offenses are in a very, very similar situation when it comes to kind of what their fans are saying about their offense and their offensive issues. So we brought another defensive coordinator today too. Do we think Raiola has gotten worse this year? If so, is it because the teams were playing? Well, this is Raiola's first. Oh, you're talking about over the course of the season? No. Yeah, and for that one, like I was talking about earlier, just putting him in good situations because it's hard as a quarterback because you got to think he has less than 20 practices before he starts his first college game, right? You come out there and you kind of are supposed to develop over the course of the season. But to do that and to be able to sit there and be able to, as an 18-year-old, learn the game, be able to look at a coverage, be able to look, okay, there's a single high safety, right? Okay, so that's a closed coverage, right? So what is that going to be? Oh, probably cover 3 or cover 1. Okay. Well, then you get a rolling safety, right? And a DB backs out. Let's say it's nickel. You get a DB that backs out and you get a rolling safety. Well, all of a sudden now they're in cover 2 as you snap the ball, right? So you're trying to learn. That doesn't happen a lot in high school where they're showing a shell and they rotate to a different coverage. That's there, of course, to make you think, hey, this is going to be open. And then, of course, they rotate and you're like, oh, crap. And so there's stuff like that being done to him. At the same time, he has plays that aren't being called to the advantage of that defensive coverage or to attack that defensive coverage. And then also he's fighting for his life, running around, because the offensive line is having troubles protecting him. And so that's why I think it's hard for us to sit here and say like, oh, he hasn't developed or he's regressed, because I just think he's in a terrible, terrible situation. And so I don't think we can accurately assess that, but I think he'll be better at certain areas, which is, reading the field and learning these defenses and stuff like that. So I do think he's progressed in that regard, but for him to develop more as a passer, we're going to have to give him more opportunities to throw to open receivers and make some throws and throw in crunch time, Wonder if they'll be expediting liquor sales at the stadium to help the fans get through the last home game. I'm gonna fight this fly in a second. South Carolina cheered Satterfield's departure. That they did. Smaller injuries, better opponents, poor O-line play, freshman learning curve. Yeah, exactly. And just kind of, his body's getting banged up. They were much quieter about the DC consultant. I think Rule and Dan are framing that as an audit and are actually previewing a couple of coaches, maybe. Yeah, that one, of course, that one naturally flew under the radar because especially like the call for offensive change is so strong. So naturally, I think people are just going to gravitate towards that one as well. Yeah. Rule looks worried. I think Rule looks stressed out, and I would be worried too if you were in a situation like this where it's like, okay, bowl eligibility is on the line and I'm realizing my OC doesn't have what I need to be able to win me games. And the last 3 games are against a USC team that can be explosive and can be good. A Wisconsin team that has been up and down but has their moments, and Iowa, who's always going to play as tough, so. All right, identity is a confused team that fails to show up from time to time, 100%. Rule wants a decent run offense. He does. Do you watch the basketball team? Yes, I am a Husker sports fan for all the teams. I'm from Houston, so naturally I was like, maybe I should have gravitated towards U of H. But my dad's side of the family, I have 6 uncles and an aunt. My dad, they grew up in Ashland, Nebraska. Then my dad moved to Texas. He was in a band that toured Texas and Louisiana. Met my mom down there and married my mom, and so I was born down there. But yeah, I Husker college everything, but Houston's pro sports everything. So I don't mean to be so negative watching the same movie. All right, it's fine. This is a place you can vent. Don't worry. On the DC thing, anybody think our DC's stock has fallen? Any head coach? Dude, honestly, no. The one thing that I think teams are going to look at when it comes to Tony White's performance of the defense this season is what I've talked about before is the mark of a good coach. The mark of a good coach is somebody who makes adjustments. So you go look at Tony White after the Illinois game, right? Made adjustments. And then you come out and you look at Tony White after the Indiana game, right? Adjustments to the front, right? The way he was running his offensive fronts from, leaving that little gap in the overs and the unders and kind of just was able to kind of run that bear defense and be able to kind of lock down the middle of that run game and kind of shut down Ohio State's run game and be able to run things off of that. Like those were adjustments he made. And so I think his coaching is being shown in a positive way. Sometimes he'll be out schemed when it comes to certain details of the game and certain aspects of the game, but he recovers and he coaches those things and he learns from it and he corrects that behavior. And that's what Satterfield hasn't done. Satterfield's running the same. Like if Tony White was out here and his defense performed like it did against Indiana and Illinois every single week, we would be calling for his head. That's exactly what's happening with Satterfield. Imagine Tony White giving up 50 points every week. That's essentially what Satterfield's doing right now. If you flip the roles there. So me personally, I don't think so. I don't think you judge a coach based off of a couple of bad performances. I think you judge it on the totality. And you look at the Michigan game last year, things like that. Job one for Rule is going to a bowl, period, 100%. Well, never mind. Should be grateful you missed 2 phases of Husker MCU, then silver linings. Mahomes has a great offensive line. He has 3 of the best linemen in the. Yeah, he's set up to a big advantage. Brady Belichick, who makes the bet? I think it's Andy Reid making him better. Honestly, you think Matt can get over the hump of beating Lincoln Riley as our best chance? Wisconsin, big bummer. I think right now, with the state USC is in, I think they're just as discombobulated as us. I think that's very much a possibility of a win. You got to think. They are already struggling against Minnesota. They came out and they had 3 turnovers and what was it, like 8 penalties in the second half or something like that. Like they are a team that beats themselves as well. And I think Nebraska's defense is better than theirs. I think their offense is a little bit better than ours. So I do believe that's a 50-50, but I do give us a chance to win that game, especially if hopefully Holgorsen can kind of come in and implement some stuff over this week and next week. Basically, we've been sucking for much longer than 9 years. Yes, lost the result of being outcoached. I think Rule's going to turn around, but dang, I wish we would have went with Urban Meyer. No, I'm not worried about Rule in the slightest. My opinion about Rule has not changed. I have not lessened anything on him at all. My opinion on him has not changed at all. A lot of teams look ready to attack, and I'm not just going to fluff it up. I would tell you if I didn't like something he was doing or something like that. But like I said, the fact that we can point to something and say this is our issue, as opposed to saying, oh, it's a culture problem or what's going on, what's really going on behind the scenes, or rumors about your head coach, missing meetings, things like that, right? If we think about it in the grand scheme of things, and what we wanted and what we expected last year, Matt Rule, about 3 weeks into the season, 3 or 4 weeks in the season, said, this is what you hired me for, right? You didn't hire me to win in year 1. Like you didn't hire him to win in year 2, right? You hired him to build a program and turn the program around. That, if you would have told yourself, okay, Matt Rule's going to come in and the injuries are going to mount up in year 1, and he has a bad OC and a terrible OC in year 2, and you look back at his time, like, big picture, versus looking back on Scott Frost's time, where you're like, recruiting was a problem, turnovers, execution, defense, his staff was terrible, like everything, right? And that's kind of how I like to think about it, or kind of point to it. You think he puts a blind trust in Satterfield even if he sees it not working? No, I think at a certain point, I think he's about to start taking it. I think this is the accountability. I think maybe to an extent he had given Satterfield a little bit more of the reins, and but I do think those have been reeled back in for sure. We've technically been irrelevant for 22 years. We had good records under Bo, but we were never a threat to the elite teams. That was the biggest thing. Bo couldn't get over the hump, right? Let's see. I haven't seen a good shovel pass in a minute. Don't understand why they don't send the running backs vertical. No, it's supposed to be an air raid, but if you toss one to Ramir, that dude can run. Yes. But that's the problem and that's where I think Dana Holgorsen can come in to play and be clutch is he will implement some of those, pass run type of deals where you have those little shovels, you have those variations of things where you block like it's a run, but you're setting up a short pass. So that way, next time when you run the ball and you have that same blocking scheme, and you run the ball out of it, well, okay, they were, keying in on the middle before, looking for that. Now they're looking for that little shovel pass, and you bust an outside run on them, right? Like certain details like that. Holgorsen can fix Raiola. I just think Raiola needs to be put in some good situations. I don't think he needs to be fixed. I think as soon as he gets back in a rhythm, I think he's got a short memory. I think he'll be fine, personally. I still contend that Bo would have benefited from a more heavy-handed, experienced Alvarez-level AD to kick his ass up between the shoulders until he hired some competent coordinators. Yeah. It was a whole lot of the whole Bo Pelini's mean, Bo Pelini's overly aggressive type of deal, and that's why they overcorrected and hired the nicest guy on the planet, not realizing that makes you a terrible football coach. Go Big Red, y'all. I appreciate you being here, Jake. I appreciate everybody who's hopped in here so far. There's 54 people watching. If y'all don't mind just dropping a like on the stream, it really, really helps me out. And I appreciate everybody who's in here joining the conversation and with me here every week, man. I really, really thank y'all so much. Like I said, I do this full time. YouTube really doesn't help me too much with their ad revenue. So even so much as views help me get in the algorithm and help me get more people to watch the channel. So coming up on 6,000 subscribers. So thank y'all so much. All right. Lincoln Riley's a $90 million buyout. That's exactly why he's not going anywhere. That's exactly why when I was talking about it yesterday, I said the athletic director has to step in and start like kind of what he just said with Bo. That's what I said earlier, where that athletic director is to step in and be like, okay, here's where we need to change some things. Riley hasn't figured out this whole head coach thing yet. Who do you hire and what do you delegate? Yeah, you can't. You're just in such a bind with that buyout right now. You got to rock with it. Lincoln Riley teams have never had a great defense. Well, that's because he stuck with Alex Grinch for so long. So now he has D'Anton Lynn. And D'Anton Lynn has that defense playing much better this year, much more physical, and that defense was ranked in the hundreds last year, and it's gotten better this year. Trust me. So it doesn't require a great defense. USC always said last year, kind of like Nebraska, we need a good offense. They need a good defense, right? They've had some issues on the offensive side of the ball. And that's hurt them this year. We're not pointing to their defense and saying that's the issue. Riley has turned out to the perfect hobble in the USC program as he entered the Big Ten, given half the opportunity US could send us right back to 2002-ish. But the thing about it is too, the other question you have to ask about Lincoln Riley is, did Oklahoma make him better? Right? Was he in a good situation there? Did Oklahoma really, like I said, be the perfect situation for him? And he's just not built for it over in USC. You know what I'm saying? So different, situations, different conferences, and you start to see people get exposed when they switch over to different conferences. We look at how Luke Fickell started this year, trying to implement his system, and he had to go back to running the ball to have a little bit of success this year. So I think that Tony White leaving us some of that rules preparing us for as well as shoring up the OC. Yeah, if jobs open up, Matt Rule is going to push just like he did last offseason. He's going to advocate for Tony White to get a job 100%. As that's just kind of the coach he is. So I think he's kind of preparing us for that too, because he knows that Tony White deserves a head coaching job. So I think he's going to do everything in his power to help get him one. I just think that's kind of how he is, and he alluded to that last year. Consultants, are you kidding me? What Rule and current coordinators good enough to get the job done? No, no, they're not. Satterfield, not. If Rule takes over the play calling, then we'll see on that. Reminds me of a Whipple Scott Frost situation with that play sheet. Riley is a national champion potential OC, but not a national champion head coach. Yes, I agree. The pay consultant should be paid out of Rule's salary. Rule looks befuddled. Wonder if Raiola has lost all trust in coach stat. That is a question right there, though. That is an interesting question, because at a certain point, you got to be frustrated as a kid who's been in successful programs in high school, seen what success looks like, and knows, what he's capable of. If you know the direct reason why you're not put in a situation to succeed, and it's impacting your career negatively, I think there's nothing else can happen but a little bit of resentment to get built there. Tom Osborne was great, because then you have to answer questions about, why you have to answer questions about your Satterfields, your OC saying he just learned you have to run the ball in the Big Ten, right? External validation can justify hard decisions of the fan when coaching changes need to be made. They definitely do. Osborne became great at adjusting. Yeah. Think about it. Who knew that McBride fellow would have been upgraded over Monty Kiffin? And think about Osborne becoming great at adjusting too. Like, how many eras he had success in. And to do that, that means he has to adapt not only to coaching against other schemes each week, but completely evolving the game to evolve with the game of college football. It's wild. Maybe by year 10, Rule have his thing turn around. It's the spirit, John. Try to stay away from in talk, but I can't. Yeah, it's impossible to stay away from sometimes. I know. I didn't know there'd be a test. Tilson, somebody correct me. Tampa 2 is 4-3 plus a nickel. Tampa 2 is essentially, all it is you have press man on the outsides with your cornerbacks, and you have that middle linebacker playing that deep middle of the field, and you have your two single high safeties, and then you have your outside backers playing kind of that I don't know, is it that hook to, they're playing a hook to flat there? I can't remember if they're playing hook to flat, curl to flat, what they're playing. But and then you have your deep middle safety, or your deep line, or your middle linebacker as a kind of a deep safety, which still leaves you susceptible in the middle just because the speed typically isn't there. But yeah, if you do put an extra DB out there and kind of run him in that middle zone, that can help too. Smart move, replace OC, retool O's, big step back, and I do it right now. Smart move. Yeah. Rules annual salary should be doing John. Matt Rule's done with the rebuild before. This is a new situation, different time. What I love about what's going on is he's willing to adjust. These new coaches can never hurt. And I think that's the biggest thing, is the fact that he's willing to make staff changes. And that's something that we haven't seen from Frost. He had his boys there and didn't want to make those changes. Good night. Hey, appreciate it, Joel. Thank you for hopping on. As always, man. So take care. The 91 consult TO had with Bobby Bowden is another adjustment point. Yep. More experienced eyes is a plus. I think Tony White's scheme's has been figured out. Probably may take a proactive approach. Definitely resharing. I see minor fixes now, but I think it's more so the game's evolving a little bit to the 3-3-5. But however, he's adjusting with it. And like I said, I think that's a sign of a really good coach, is when you can get ahead. You can then adjust to that. And you also got to think too, he's having a scheme with an offense back-to-back years that with an offense that's not helping him out. His defense is just, their backs against the wall in a lot of situations. That doesn't help. So All right. Well, I caught up on all y'all's comments. I'll probably make a video a little bit about that film and stuff like that since it's not loading properly for me, of course. So I had some nice film that I wanted to go over about Dana Holgorsen. So I will make a video on that. I'll have it posted for y'all probably tomorrow. So y'all stay tuned for that. And if you haven't yet, if you're new to the channel, please subscribe, drop a like on this stream if you haven't yet, or when it posts after this, if you want to drop a like, leave a comment. Like I said, they all help me out. Memberships are active on the channel. I do have 3 membership tiers. The Big Red Loyalist is the least expensive tier. Then we have the Black Shirt Brigade, and then we have the 5-star Corn Connoisseurs as our higher tier. And each one of those will get you perks, and I'm adding additional perks to those as well. So you'll get your money's worth. I'll have extra additional content for those kind of in those second 2 tiers. So you'll get extra stuff on top of what you get here, and maybe members only live streams, etc. So if you do want to do that, like I said, it'll really help me out. And yeah, like I said, it's hard for me to ask for stuff. I'm not really good at this part of it. That's why I don't do it. I just like to talk football. So, but again, thank you. Even so much as a viewer, a like helps me out. So appreciate all of you that are in here with me every single week. And yeah, with that being said, I am out, and I will see you on the next video. Don't lose your minds tonight. I'm going to say this. Whoever wins the presidency, right? Think about it this way. Like, my life has never ended because of what one of these fear-mongering tactics have never come to fruition, right? It's not the end of the world. Just understand that tomorrow's a new day. Don't fight with people. Just everybody get along with everybody. Your loved ones are your loved ones. We're all friends in Husker Nation too. So remember, just positivity. And if the person you want to win doesn't win, you got to root for the country anyways, right? So keep that in mind. Let's just have a positive mindset, and that's what we want. We're tired of the division. So everybody have a good night. Don't fight with people. Just everybody chill out. And that being said, I will see you in the next video. Peace.